Blue Lock episode 8 has finally aired. We're finally getting more and more of the U20 arc, and now that we've made it to the halfway point of the game, we can tell a lot about how the rest of this match will be. Per usual, is it any good? What are the best and worst moments? Did the animation improve? And what is the community's reaction to this episode? I got everything you need to know, so let's get into it. First things first, this episode picks up right where we left off. We get more of Nagi's goal celebration, and this episode actually gets all the way to the halftime mark. This episode is also all new content. Last episode, everything from the trailer was shown, so now this is all new content that we haven't previously seen before. So is this new content and manga adaptation any good, or did it improve from what was shown in the trailer and last episode? Because the biggest talking topic about Blue Lock right now is of course the animation, and that's what everyone wants to know. Is episode 8 any better? And right out of the gate, I think they did this episode dirty. In general, I think this episode has the most overall hype moments of any episode adaptation so far. Like last episode, we only had Nagi and Sai's goal as the main focus of the episode, but this one, a bunch of different characters are getting their moments instead of just one or two people. For example, Chigiri, Karasu, Nico, Ryu, even the U20 squad, a lot of characters had these hype moments, but most of them were kind of a letdown. And unfortunately, this directly has to do with the animation. Chigiri, for example, he does a sprint along the left side. This is one of the most important things he does in the whole match, and he wasn't even moving for more than half of it. In fact, they flash back to season 1, and that running had more animation than this U20 moment, which is what a lot of people were pointing out. Chigiri's weapon is speed, so for him to not be moving, it's very unfortunate. It's not just Chigiri that's affected though. Sai and Rin actually have their first face-off in this episode, and this was quite literally a slideshow. And I'm not even exaggerating it, by the way. The first half of it was actually 4 different frames with no movement, like an actual manga panel. It's just 4 cuts back to back with no animation or movement. You can't even make this up. It's actually kind of funny at this point because it really is a colored manga. It's just cutting to different frames every time. So we're really not beating the slideshow allegations or the PNG lock allegations. Keep in mind, this is one of the main rivalries, if not the main rivalry for this match. Rin's whole character and previous episodes before this have been building up to this moment. And it was just so rushed with no animation. Genuinely, the only time anything moved, it was Sai blocking Rin with his hand. Everything else was just CGI feet moving around, still frames of the fight. It was just so rushed at this point, and we gotta use our imagination to know what's supposed to go on. It's 100% disappointing because it's like this for almost every single important moment in this episode. At least with the last episode, we had a Nagi's goal, which was really good. You can tell that they put effort into that goal. But the other goal we end up seeing, which is Rin's goal this episode, it was pretty underwhelming. We did get build up and Rin's OST was playing. That was really good, but just the animation for it was not there. Even the art was kind of a letdown, which unfortunately is the opposite of Nagi's goal. The art was very good, but Rin's goal was pretty underwhelming for a goal. Remember that these are the most important parts of the match, the goals. In fact, the ball actually moves before Rin even kicks it or moves his leg. That's why the goal kind of came off as choppy when you watch it. I can't even believe it, but overall it was okay though. It still kind of delivers because of the story, build up, the OST. It was all very good. Just the animation and art wasn't really there for his goal. So we've downgraded from last episode's goal, which is why people are saying it's getting worse. People held on to hope saying that at least the goals are gonna have good animation, but this one just proved it wrong. And the big thing about this and why people are talking about it in the first place is the animation is literally getting in the way of the adaptation, which is why it's making the U20 game worse. There is this whole argument that the story matters more than the animation, which does make sense, but when the animation starts getting in the way of the story, that's when things start to get affected. When stuff gets cut out of the manga or it's so poorly adapted, you can't even tell what's going on. That's exactly what's happening in Blue Lock, especially with Itoshi Sai. Words can't express how badly Itoshi Sai has been done dirty. This is the single star of the match, and we're grasping for straws at his moments here. We talked about the Rin versus Sai 1v1 being mostly PNGs and still frames. It was like an actual manga panel, but that wasn't even the worst of it. We somehow downgraded even more because Sai's dribbling, which is his main weapon, was either all CGI feet frames or PNGs. this moment in particular, when he's dribbling past Isagi and Bachira, he did not jump up like this in the manga. What is even going on here? It's like Sai gained wings. Did he chug Red Bulls before the match? Did he turn into a ballerina? How is this even possible? I genuinely don't even know how this even turned into this. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then all of a sudden, it cuts to him back on the ground. Sai hit the quick teleport and got past Isagi and Bachira already. Not to mention, they added a flight reacts instant replay effect on this moment. They literally played it twice. They pulled a double zoom. So the whole point, they're literally not adapting the manga, so the story isn't even that accurate. That's why the animation is such a big problem. Because Sai's whole character is being massacred here. This is supposed to be the final boss, the star of the match. Why this match is even happening in the first place, and they barely gave him any highlight. That's probably the worst moment of this episode, and as much as I want to talk about the good parts of this episode, get some positives in here, this whole episode was just like this. The adaptation, animation, everything was just off. But I will say, I think they did the RU moment pretty good. He blocks Itoshi Sai's shot at the last second, and that was just pure hype. And even the positives, this moment, they didn't adapt the manga one-to-one. There was supposed to be a zoom in on Ryu's eye before he blocks it, but they just cut that out and had him block it. Overall, the moment was done pretty good. Nico's defense was also done pretty good as well. Personally, my favorite moment of the episode. I think they did Nico's effects and auras pretty good. Again, it doesn't come without its cons though. There's still the random CGI foot for every single time he moves, and then the chess pieces moving everywhere. I also think the OSTs improved from last episode, because the OSTs from last episode, that was something else, because there was just one continuous OST playing over half of it, and even Sai's goal. It felt very out of place, but at least in this episode, they fixed that problem at bringing in multiple different OSTs, and they even brought back some old OSTs like Shigiri's one. So I think they did that good. Rin's goal was also one of the highlights of this episode, but we talked about that, how even that wasn't even done the best, so the bar is very low for the highlights of this episode. Unfortunately, that's about it for the good things about this episode, and a lot of people seem to agree. The community reaction to this was kind of on fire, as you would expect with this animation, but even more than usual. A lot of people are disappointed, especially coming off of that Nagi goal from last episode. They were even calling this one of the worst episodes, which is a very bold statement to make. And a lot of people also noticed how the adaptation wasn't done properly in this episode, especially that Sai scene, because there was no reason why he should be flying this high. Most people were just underwhelmed throughout watching this, which makes sense considering this episode contains the most moments for each and every character. Yet it felt like somehow nothing was important, besides maybe Ren's goal, Ryu's save, and Nico's clear. Keep in mind, almost every single moment here was very important. We had Sai's dribble and the first 1v1 against his brother. Chigiri running down was one of his most important moments in this episode. The U20 boys doing their quote-unquote final 5-minute fight. All of it was very important in the manga, but was so brushed over in the anime. I do want to say the high action and fast pacing, it does work for BLUELOCK, but when the fast pacing is so poorly adapted, it really doesn't help. Again, I've seen some people go as far to say that this is the worst episode of the season, which is a crazy statement because we've had some pretty bad episodes, so you know people are disappointed. I'm actually interested to see how you guys would list episodes 1 through 8. Where would you rank them? Like, what's the best and what's the worst episodes? In my opinion, this is pretty low. I just don't know if it beats episode 2 and that adaptation. But for this one specifically, episode 8, there was just not that many highlights or good things about this episode. At least with last episode, we had Nagi's goal, which was a very good positive, and that gave a lot of people hope. But now the people that coped after Nagi's goal have disappeared and raised the white flag, and it makes sense because of this one. The thing is, you can get behind the animation if the episode and anime is enjoyable, but this time around, I saw almost nobody enjoying this, which makes sense considering all that happened, and I think it's making a lot of people scared for the rest of the season. Again, it's only halfway through the game, and there is still a lot of more important moments to go, and if this is what the first half looks like, then we can make a good prediction that the next half would look almost the exact same. People are literally afraid at this point of how things are looking in the future. If that doesn't tell you something, then I don't know what will. It's very unfortunate that the production committee is rushing this adaptation out, because this is just so disappointing as so many moments have actually been ruined. No blame to the animators. I know that their situation is really bad, and if they had more time, I doubt they would produce what we see right now. But anyways, that's gonna be it for this video. Per usual, just catching you up on every episode. If it made it to the end, thank you so much, and I'll see y'all in the next one.